in the 1979, I think it was, that we needed to change cars, and so we bought Merrill and Bobby's 1985 Lincoln, and it was a fantastic, beautiful car, and I think everyone thought we were rich because we had such a fancy car.
We had to go to Coeur d'Alene on a trip for the school, and because Ricks College was receiving an award for the brochure type things that Dick was in charge of and so forth. And I can remember going over there and coming in front of the lodge or whatever, and how all the it's interesting that people, if they think you're rich or if you're actually rich, how they kind of cater to those people more than if you were just in an old car. But it was interesting just to watch them look at the car.
And we were just a couple of dingleberries from Rexburg, just a fancy car, and so it really does make a difference how they perceive you from that standpoint. The 80s, I did go to a lot of conventions and different things like that on behalf of the college, Ricks College, and where I was involved with both a full teaching load plus a full graphics program to run. I had up to 16 of our students working in graphics to get all of the graphic design done for the college. And so that was a heavy teaching and designing time in my life. Later they changed the program at the college to reflect the load, a load quota for every class, for every experience. And so they virtually had to take away one of my jobs, which was graphic designer. And so in time I was able to facilitate with the department the hiring of some former students that became teachers with the graphic design, and also Kelly Bergner, and was able to take over the graphic services under the presidents there, and so I continued to work with them on that particular little bit just as an advisor. But it was a time of transition in my teaching also, and when we had former students come back to teach graphics, I was able to teach drawing and painting, which is my love and first love, particularly now. And I look back on that, and it was needed. Needed new blood in the graphic design, and I needed to make a change into fine art, and all of that happened in the 80s and the early 90s, and so that became I found to be an exciting time in my life.
One thing we realized that we're kind of jumping around, but one thing I wanted to bring up is, I think it was when Michael was on his mission that I decided I would try a job, and so I decided to Trent Thompson, who has cerebral palsy. He had to have an aide in the school when he was going to school, so I decided that I would go ahead and try working outside the home. And it was a joy to work with him, but I found out it was so tiring, and I didn't have any energy to clean up at home even. And but from that time, I was only going to do it a year, and then I went ahead and did it a second year when Trent Thompson was in the 5th and 6th grade, and he was in Andrea's grade. And we became dear friends, Trent and I, and we still get in touch with him, and he gets so excited when he sees me that he just loves me and I love him. And but I did find out that, thank goodness, I was able to stay home all during the time, except I chose to do those 2 years with Trent, and that was a good thing.
It's always wonderful to have mom, a home mom, where when children came home from school, she was always there. And during this time too, in the 80s and the 90s, had an opportunity to work with the Scouts. Carl Sadler and I worked together with the Explorers, the Adventures, and we went on super activity to Channel Islands, and then we went to the, what's the name of that one island there that's off from Los Angeles?
Catalina.
Catalina. And the boys, I think, were with us too, weren't they? Michael came with us, no? I guess he didn't. But we had a wonderful couple of super activities because Carl had family down there and had access to a yacht, and so, my heavens, in those days you could have a super activity with the Scouts. Nowadays they eliminated that. And but working with the Scouts and then intermittently in the High Council in our stake was my church involvement, and one that just was enjoyable to go and speak to the wards and work with the Scouts and just to be involved that way became quite the involvement.
And one thing, as he had mentioned before, how he would just struggle so much giving a talk, and he'd sweat and all this kind of stuff. And like I mentioned, because of all the experiences he had talking and teaching and so forth, that he could just give a lesson without even studying for it.
No, I'd have to study for it. I'd have to read it.
Well, yes, he would read the lesson, and then basically without doing much to it, then he could just give it. And the thing of it is, he had the opportunity to teach the gospel doctrine class, and the people in there just loved him. And they
It was a joy to do it.
it was a joy for him, but they were sad when he was taken out and put into the what?
I don't know.
What
taken out.
position?
Became a has-been.
Oh, anyway.
1982, you were married. 1985, David was married. And Brenda was going to high school and dating and frustrated because she couldn't stay with a boy long enough to be secure. And that was a depressing time in a way
For me
to
too.
see her struggle. Mom had a hard time with that. Go for it, Beth.
No, go.
Well, the 1980s were momentous in our family with our children, our sons, especially Michael. After his mission, Carla, she was on the forefront, and so they dated, and I remember them meeting in our front room, sitting on the couch.
And we had such a storm.
It was a real stormy time, and
Blizzard.
basically that's where they declared their love for each other and said that they were going to get married. And
She couldn't get out because of all the snow.
right, she was blocked in, snowed in to the birdhouse, and so that became 1982, the marriage foundation for Michael and Carla, and what a joy that's been to see that develop and to grow and to flourish.
And all 5 grandchildren who we love so much.
Oh, and of course they've struggled, and all our kids have struggled here, there, but by and large, what a great experience they've had in their marriages. And then David, he follows up and marries Leslie Pincock, and she lived over in Sugar City and went to Sugar City High School, and David dated her while he was at Rick's College, and then they got married in 1985, and they ended up with some children also, and they now have 4 children that wonderful kids, and one boy, Troy, and the other girls, and so those girls are really
You gotta
good
name them.
Huh?
Let's name them.
Okay, let's go back to Michael and Carla with their children. Their first was Rylan. And Rylan was born right here in Rexburg. And so we had the privilege of getting really close to Rylan and Carla and Mike as they were parents to number one grandchild, Rylan. Rylan Scott Bird. And so that was a time that Michael was going to college here.
What do
was
you
it,
mean?
Mike?
What? What about?
Well, he was going to college, and while he was, you know...
You mean they're living here?
No. When Rylan was born.
Yeah, they were here in Rexburg.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but they were in the little apartment, weren't you?
Yeah, but wasn't he going to school?
Yeah. But anyway, let's get all their children named.
Go for it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Rylan, and then there is Kyle. And then Elisa, and then Brianna, and then Braden. And 8 months ago, in their family, they had their first grandbaby, and we had our first great grandbaby from Elisa and Mitchell, and his name is Jacob Michael.
Jacob Michael Hansen.
Hansen, yeah.
Hi.
And he's been here while Michael's been taping this, and he's just a joy.
He's adorable.
And he's just, we're glad he came up. And then, of course, okay, go with David and name
With
the
David,
kids.
their first was Troy, and he was a hellcat. No, he wasn't. He was
He's just
such,
rambunctious.
He was rambunctious and full of energy to the point that is unbelievable. And a very intelligent little boy that would read billboards when he was 3 years old and would have to read them to mom, to grandma. And but all our kids are the best. All our grandkids are the best in the world, and the most handsome and the cutest ever. And we know that, and we accept it. We just humble ourselves to that point of realization that ours are better than others. And so that's just the way it is. And reality is reality. And anyway, then Troy, after he was born, and then girls came into their family with Ashley, followed by Brittany, and then the youngest of their clan is Rachel. And they're a delight. They're just fantastic girls that we just love. And so between Michael and David, those children just laid the foundation for our posterity, to see our family grow. And little Jacob to add on top of that as the cherry of the moment. Because there'll be other cherries coming in. I have a painting that I gave to Mike and Carla that have symbolism in it that shows a rose in the middle that represents grandma, mom, my wife. And then we see 4 cherries moving from there, and that represents our 4 children. And that would be, of course, David and Michael and David and Brenda and then Andrea. And they're moving upward in that painting symbolically. And that's what happens. They separate from the family and create their own little families. And before you know it, we're all one God's kingdom. And but we are so close. Mom, Grandma, is the catalyst of keeping our family close-knit and constant. Because there's not a day that goes by that she's not in contact with family on the telephone. And what a joy that is for bonding and love and knowing what's happening with our family, to see their struggles and their high points and their low points. Mom keeps it in check. She helps, does what we can. Don't have any money, but we can sure give love and support and guidance.
You forgot 2 other children.
Oh yeah, we do have 2 other children that were involved in those years. And one is called Brenda, and she's our oldest girl. And Brenda, she struggled in high school. She dated and
She figured she had to be married at 18.
yeah, she figured early marriage and didn't happen, and that depressed her and made her stressed out all the time, and that carried over to mom, grandma, and so she got involved with emotionally too much. Me, I just sit back and watch it happen, and not get too involved with it because I had my challenges at school, and so I just stayed with that. And so when it comes right down to it, why sweat it? Let mom take care of it. And she did. She did a wonderful job doing that. And she still does. She just, I just sit back and I have to say and admit, into my comfort zone. Go, if I get stressed out, go work on a painting. Go to the office, go do something else, mow a lawn, whatever it takes. And so I know how to escape. I've learned that over the years. And let the stress happen with mom.
Mm-hmm. And finish.
Oh,
Brenda got married
Brenda finally did get married.
at 27.
And when she was 27, so she had to go through a lot of years of adjusting into the fact that she couldn't get married when she was in her teens.
But she got 2 degrees, actually.
Yeah, she was able to finish college, and she met Tyler Williams, who is from Portland, Oregon area, Hillsboro, and they met at BYU, and so they started their marriage. And what year? How old is Nathan? 14.
14.
So
94, I think.
94.
yeah, we think Brenda was married in 1994. When she sees this, she'll say, "Dad, how come you don't know those details?" Because I'm Dad. That's just the way it is. And so they finished there, and their life has been one where Tyler is able to get on at Ricks College, BYU, Idaho, by that time, and has done very, very well administratively there, and loves the job. He does a good job there, and he's a good administrator. And so, and they have a wonderful little family that lives right over there in Rigby, Idaho, and so we get to be bombarded by that wonderful little clan quite often. Their oldest, of course, is Nathan, and then Aaron, and Nathan's 14, and Aaron is about 12.
He will be in December.
He'll be in December 12. And then Cammie, and she's, Cammie is just baptized yesterday, and so she's 8 years old. And then there's little Allie, and she's 6.
7.
And her birthday is today. We've got to acknowledge that.
She's
today.
7.
And she's 7 years old now.
And I've already acknowledged it today.
And Grandma has acknowledged it, like true to form, she is. But anyway, that with Andrea's not married, but wants to be, and she will be, and we all look forward to that momentous event.
But she has worked at the church office.
But she's worked at the church office building for many years as a designer, and David has been in a designer situation. Michael, he's been in programming and computers and designing and film, and this is an example of his expertise in doing other things that he's gained new talents in with his degree at what's his name of it? Utah Valley University in Utah.
And then Carla also, she has been working at the hospital in the food area, and then Leslie, she works there in the hospital too. I don't know exactly what she does, but she works there too, and she's worked in other things too all the time.
And Carla's a stay-home mom now.
Yes, and a stay-home grandma.
Grandma now.
Yeah, and
Michael, he is working for himself, and he can go a lot of different directions because of his training, and probably too much training because different institutions don't want to hire someone that's so experienced. They're afraid they have to pay too much for that experience. He's so talented and so has so much background that you wonder, well, why would that be a detriment? Well, in today's society, that could be a problem. If you're low paid and under trained, you get hired. If you're overtrained and fantastic and a top professional, you can go without work. That seems to be the casualty of today's society.
And Andrea has worked, 13 years, I think, at the church office building as a designer and can't remember exactly what her job is called either.